All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great session. Today, we are going to talk about a very exciting topic, which is creating custom MCP server and connect it with Copilot Studio agent. So MCP is really a hot topic right now. You can see like using pre-built MCP servers or creating custom MCP servers. And there is really great benefit there because we just create ones and we can use within multiple agents. And I'm super excited here. My name is Rafsan Husseinov. I am Microsoft MVP and AI Solutions Architect, focusing on Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio agents. Today, I'm joined by Maciek Jarka. Maciek, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Maciek. I am a data lake architect, specialized and proficient in the Snowflake. I'm also the data enthusiast. This recording will not be actually about the Snowflake, but I hope you will enjoy it as well.
Awesome, great. So let me continue. So high-level learning objectives. First, we will show you how you can create your own Python-based custom HTTP MCP server. It's gonna be on cloud. You don't have to do this in your device, host this in your device. Then we will show you how you can connect to Microsoft Copilot Studio agent. And then we hope this is going to be inspiration for you to apply these concepts to your own real world scenarios. So, Maciek, could you please talk about high level architecture here?
Absolutely. So our client in this setup is the Microsoft Copilot Studio, and the server will be hosted in the remote host that's accessible from the Copilot Studio. So the server will be running over HTTP protocol, and Microsoft Copilot Studio will connect to this server to use the tools that are available. Now, one important thing to note, this is remote host that must be accessible from Microsoft Copilot. You can set up the server using Azure or AWS EC2. The main thing is that it has to, the port must be open so that Copilot Studio can connect and list the tools and send the requests and receive the responses. You can configure this with the security groups, but it cannot be behind the firewall because otherwise this server will not be useful. Now, for the authentication, we are using API key. That's the very basic way of authenticating and securing the MCP server. But under this video, you have a link to website by Guangia Liu, who provided extreme number of great articles of securing MCP servers with OAuth 2.0 and HTTPS. So I really recommend you going through these posts because they will bring this solution to the higher level in terms of security, which is crucial in the enterprise solution. In this video, we make it secure, but it's quite simple and basic, and I will not recommend going with only the API key in your enterprise solution. Now, what our MCP server will do, it's basically a piece of Python code that will expose one main tool, which is called get hotel reviews. So that tool will allow Copilot Studio to retrieve reviews about the certain hotel from the Google reviews. Now, the basic functionality will with the basic functionality you can connect directly to the Google reviews. So what we did, we have used the Outscraper API. If you're not familiar with Outscraper, it's quite major player in terms of data brokerage. And with this API, you can easily retrieve data which is live or near live from APIs or systems like Google Reviews. But the idea of this movie is not just to present this particular scenario, but more to show you that building custom MCP servers is a great way to abstract your internal enterprise systems that are not publicly available, and they do not have built-in MCP servers. So with the solution we present, you can think about embedding the set of functionalities of your internal systems that you want to seamlessly connect to the Microsoft Copilot Studio. And over the next couple of minutes, I will show you the technical details, how to start with this and how to do that.
Awesome.
All right, so
Yeah,
let
let's
me share
go
my
to
screen.
demo. So I'm gonna show the end result here. So from here, as you can see, we don't have really a description or instruction or anything that you may need for production. But for this, we toggled on web search because we want to pull the dynamic and updated, up-to-date hotel information. So that's why we are using web search. In your scenario, if you don't want like web or pre-trained data, make sure you toggle this off. In our scenario, we need a web search. Now in the chat, if I ask what are the 5-star hotels in Washington, D.C., this will basically leverage the web search to pull dynamic information from internet. So, and as you can see, it's searching now, analyzing, and here are the some 5-star hotels in Washington, D.C. Now I can pick actually an hotel and say, what are the reviews for, let's pick one hotel from here. I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. And let's see the result. This should invoke MCP server, and within MCP server, we have a tool called get the hotel reviews, and that would basically pull the dynamic information from here. Generating plan. All right, here are the reviews, and as you can see, and if I wanted to, I can just click read full review. This will take me to source, like Awesome Club Lounge. And as you can see, you can get the information here. And if I go to activity tab, let's click this. So from here, you can see like for our first prompt, which was what are the 5-star hotels in Washington, D.C., it just use its web search capability within Copilot Studio. But as soon as I asked what are the reviews for Ritz-Carlton, Washington, D.C., that invoked our MCP server. And within that MCP server, it used get hotel reviews, and here is the information. And if I go to tools section, you can see I have one MCP server here. If I click, and within that you can see we have two tools available, and we have also resources. So resources currently in preview, we are not necessarily using it, but in the future we will be able to use that. All right, this is how the MCP works. And now my colleague, my friend Maciej, will show us how we can create that Python-based HTTP MCP server. Maciej, go ahead, please. I'm gonna stop sharing.
All right.
And add that to, yeah, go ahead.
So I will go a little bit into the details of the code of the MCP server, which is written in Python. Now, you can start with vibe coding the MCP server code template. That will make your life a little bit easier. Tools like Claude or GitHub Copilot can allow you to generate the base of the code. Now, then you can start with implementing the actual tools. Now, before I start, I will ask you, Rafsan, to show the slide with comparison with the Anthropic MCP and the FastMCP to give some content context for the choice that we made for the implementation. So today, if you want to implement a Python-based MCP server, you have two choices. One is the basic Anthropic MCP software development kit, and the alternative library, which is called MCP. Both of them are following the protocol, but there are some slight differences, and your choice may be based on these differences. So Anthropic MCP is more low level when you have more control of what you are doing, but with the FastMCP, with all these add-ons, allows you to deliver your solutions faster, but at the same time, it's slightly more high level. And in contrary to Anthropic MCP, it's only in Python, while Anthropic MCP is Python, TypeScript, C#, and Java. But the most important part why we have chosen to implement this in the FastMCP is that it has built-in decorators called middleware that makes it much, much easier to get the enterprise authentication. That's the reason number one. And the reason number two why we have chosen the FastMCP, and this is actually more important, is that the basic MCP SDK is not compatible with Microsoft Copilot Studio. This may be weird because you may think MCP is a kind of standard protocol, so why it's not compatible? Actually, this problem is explained under the link which you have here, and it's also available below the recording. It's related to the data types of the request ID that's being sent in between Copilot Studio and the MCP server. Long story short, with FastMCP, we didn't experience this problem, but I hope in the near future this will be solved, especially because of the fact that it impacts also other integrations. Just a side story, today Snowflake is also having the built-in MCP server functionality, which is built with the base Anthropic MCP SDK. And for that reason, it's not possible to connect this with the Copilot Studio. And we believe we will record another movie about Snowflake hosted MCP, but as of now, we see a technical obstacle here. All right, so let me go back to the code. Now we know why we are using FastMCP library in Python. Just a little bit about the procedures that are implemented in this code. So each time you add a tool in the MCP server, you need to implement a method which is annotated with add_mcp.tool. Then the MCP SDK will make sure that whatever tool connects to that server will be able to discover this procedure as one of the tools available. So the main procedure that we have implemented is called get hotel reviews. It's annotated with add_mcp.tool. And as you have seen in the Copilot Studio, it has been automatically discovered. The attribute that this procedure takes is the hotel name as a string. And when this procedure is called by the client, or this tool is called by the client, we begin the processing. First of all, we clean up a little bit the new lines from the hotel name to make sure the call is correct. We build API URL. The API URL is pointing to the outscraper that I have mentioned. It's using the reviews version 3 API, and the query is just containing the hotel name. And we have hard-coded the reviews limit to 10. But of course, you can make this tool more flexible by adding additional argument which determines what's the total number of the reviews, and you can concatenate this here. To call the outscraper API, we also authenticate with an API token. So before calling the API, we build a header object where we add the value of the API token, which is taken from the configuration file. And we are also logging in the console the API URL that we built with the hotel name that we received. And then we build the request using, first of all, the API URL, and then the header that we built to contain the API token. Then we send the request to the Outscrapper API, and we return the response. So that's all that this tool is doing. It's abstracting the API, but of course, you don't have any limits of the logic which is done here. It's just a normal Python code. So you have plenty of possibilities of processing, transforming, or combining these requests with other APIs. That way, you can, with the MCP server, you can abstract many tools. This is very simple for you just to understand how FastMCP works. So this is the main method. What else do we need? All the methods that are discoverable as tools are annotated with mcp.tool. Then we need to initialize the MCP server. We use that using the FastMCP constructor. We name this server hotels. Since this is accessible via HTTP, we mention the host name that we know and the port number that we expose this server with. Now, important aspect here, this port number must be unblocked and accessible from Microsoft Copilot Studio. It cannot be behind the firewall. Another thing we must do is to set up authentication of the MCP server. So I have already mentioned the token that we use to authenticate with the Outscrapper, but we also need to configure a token to authenticate between Copilot Studio and the MCP server. And this is where the FastMCP library comes with a great feature, which is called a middleware. And the middleware is a Python decorator that we decorate the MCP object with this middleware. And basically, it works as an interceptor of the request. And before the request is being sent to MCP server, it checks if the header and the API token provided in that header is correct. So this is the way where you can, in a relatively easy way, implement authentication against authentication with the client. To create that decorator, we build a class which is called user-auth middleware. And before any request is being processed by the MCP, this middleware processes these requests, intercepts the header, and verifies if the header is correct. So we use the method getHttpHeaders. From the HTTP header, we get a header which is called API key. Now, the name of this header is something custom. We called this API key, and when connecting that to Microsoft Copilot Studio, we will also have to use the same header name. You will see that when Rafsan will be configuring the Copilot Studio. Now, from the header that is sent to us, we get the value. If the header called API key is not available, we raise the error saying access denied, key was not provided. The other condition is when the key doesn't start with bearer, it returns the error saying invalid token format. If these two conditions are not satisfied, we get that API key, we remove the bearer prefix, and we check this token value against the value that we have configured under the name local token. So the local token variable is taken from the configuration file. You will not see the actual value of this token, but we just compare the value that we intercepted by the middleware against the value that we have in the configuration. And after we verified the token and it was correct, so we didn't raise any error, we execute the FastMCP method named call next. And that method, if there is no other middleware, it goes to the actual request processing. If this request processing is execution of the tool, it will start executing the tool. If the token is not correct, it will raise the error and you will see the error in the Copilot Studio. Now, before I move forward, I have to mention that this is a very, very basic way of securing MCP server. We have a static token, which is not rotated. It is not verified against the username and against the authentication authority. But if you would like to move it to a higher level, make it more secure, use the JWT token or use OAuth 2.0. You can do that with FastMCP. And again, there is a great set of resources provided by Guangya Liu that we use to implement that. But to get more secure, you should get acquainted with these materials before you move it to production. All right, so I believe this is all about the Python code. In the main method of this Python code, we initialize the MCP server. We have the MCP object that we run with the transport type called streamable HTTP, which is designed for communication over HTTP protocol. And this is why you will be able to discover that in Copilot Studio. I'm closing the code and I'm running the Python script. It has started successfully. It says that the MCP server named hotels with the transport streamable HTTP is running under this address. And this address I will send to Ravsan and he will be able to connect Copilot Studio. In the meantime, I will be able to see the logs on what communication is being sent in between his client and my server. All right, so I will let Ravsan continue with the Copilot Studio configuration from here.
Thanks for explanation, Maciej. I think that was very helpful and important, talking about how to set up also the security considerations. Again, if you go to production, please make sure that you use right method of authentication. That's very, very important. So as you can see, I just quickly created a new agent. From here, if I go to settings, a few things we need to configure. From here, what we need to do, I'm just gonna toggle off use general knowledge of large language model. That's basically LLM's pre-trained data. We don't want it because trained data might be a year ago, so we need a new updated information. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and toggle on use information from the web and click save. So that will allow agent to search from the internet and bring back the most updated information when we ask question. Perfect. So now I can go ahead and add a tool. So to use MCP server, we need to configure a tool. So I will just go to tools. By the way, it's very important to understand, in order to use MCP server, the generative orchestration mode in your agent needs to be toggled on. So this is very important. And in the tool section, I'm going to add a new tool. So if you look at here, you can just click Model Context Protocol. There are some pre-built templates here you can leverage, and all the MCPs that you have configured, they will appear here. But in our case, we are actually adding a custom and new MCP server. So I will click add a new tool and select model context protocol. From here, we need to provide the server name. I will say demo hotel reviews. And server description, this is very important. This is how LLM decides when and why to invoke this MCP server. Provides reviews for the requested hotels. Perfect. And server URL, Maciek just provided this information to me, and I will just paste it here. So we will do additional configuration in the Power Automate side, and you will see why. And authentication here, as you can see, we mentioned, you can have just none, which is not safe. Please never do that if you go to production. API key, this is at least more secure than none, but for production, you would use OAuth 2.0. So header, we're gonna use API key.
Yes, and this is something, if you remember, when I was showing you how the header is being built in Python, we have used just this name of the header, API-key. However, choice is yours. The name of this header can be different.
Right, from
It
here, I
just
will
has to be
click
the
create.
same in the Python configuration and in the client configuration in Copilot Studio.
Excellent, it's working now. Perfect. We need to connect now, create a new connection. So from here, I will add
The recording.
Yes, I will paste that here. For the privacy and security, we're not showing the that information, but click create and add and configure. Right, your request completed successfully, and this will show up on our available tool list. And from here, if we go to here, yes, I believe we did that, the connection. And if we scroll down, we know that that MCP server has at least two tools, but you may not be able to see them right away, and we need to do additional configuration to do that. I will go to Microsoft Power Automate. Let's refresh this. So you need to go to custom connectors, make sure you are here. And sometimes it's really tricky because there are custom connectors, connection references. You select custom connectors. And here is the most recent MCP server we added. I will click edit. So make sure you select schema HTTP. And if you notice, we don't have the port information here. So that's where we need to add our port information and click update connector.
Yep. And also
Swagger.
we have to go to the Swagger editor.
Yeah.
Somehow, I believe in the normal scenario, this should not be needed.
Yeah.
However, Copilot Studio somehow loses this information, the port number and the path. So the other thing you have to do to make it work, you have to go to the Swagger editor and add -mcp in line 11, which is a standard path which is determined by the protocol.
Exactly. So once you add this, make sure you click update connector one more time. Perfect. It's saved now. If I go back to Copilot Studio, so again, like once when we set this up, somehow we didn't see the tools, and after configuring them in Power Automate side, we just need to come back here and click refresh. Maybe refresh one more time. Okay, now you can see list of available tools. Same thing, if you have any resources available, you can refresh and you should be able to see the resources here. So it's very important, and I see this a lot. You add the MCP server, you configure it here, but somehow you don't see the available tools. And we explained that you need to go to Power Automate, select the connection, custom connectors, and do some quick configuration, and that should fix your issues. And once you are done, so your tool is already available here. Perfect. And if I go to tools now, and it's just added. Now let's go ahead and interact with the Copilot. What are the hotels in Arlington, Virginia? Right, let's go to Connection Manager. Connect. Perfect. Click Submit. Status saying connected. We are good. And let's retry. All right. Wow, there are so many hotels here. So I'm going to select one of them and ask what are the hotel reviews for. Click. So you can see these reviews available, and it's good thing you can see actually the name of the people who provided those reviews. And this is a dynamic. If you want like full review, go to Google Maps. Now, if I go to Activity tab, and if I select this, and here we go. Again, for our first prompt, it's just use the web search to pull information from internet. Perfect. And second prompt, when we ask what are the hotel reviews for the selected hotel, then that invoke the MCP server, and MCP server selected the get hotels reviews tool, and then here is the information. So as you can see, it's really amazing. And one of the benefits of this kind of MCP servers, now I can build another agent and use the same MCP server. So I don't have to manually add or configure each connectors. So I think this is really great. Mate, any closing thoughts? Maybe we can share information about the available resources.
Absolutely. You have the source code for the MCP server under this recording. However, the vibe coding tools work quite good to generate the template. Other than that, I think we have to underline again that from the security perspective, this is really basic. So for the enterprise solution, you have to implement HTTPS and also OAuth 2.0. And yes, I think this scenario is very simple. We are just abstracting one publicly available API, but what we wanted to express is that the Python code on the custom MCP server side gives you very, very many possibilities of abstracting your internal systems and seamlessly connect to Copilot Studio. On the other hand, we also see that there are some obstacles, like with the with the protocol discrepancies, and also with the Copilot Studio UI. So it was not very easy for us to make this setup, and I hope this movie will help you because you will not have to get through this as we did.
Awesome. No, that's great, Matsu. Yeah, we worked on this like quite a while because we were facing some issues, but finally we were able to find out. And yeah, thank you so much for this demo. I believe people will really love it. And yeah, in the future we are planning to do more MCP related demos, sessions. Please subscribe to our channel, and if you have any questions, thoughts, yeah, put them in the description of the YouTube video comment section, and we will get back to you. So awesome. Thank you so much. And we will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.